to this very historic evening with guest speaker, guest of honor, Mr. Joseph Alexander. The man who survived 12 concentration camps. We could barely manage to survive without the phone for 1 hour.
Yes.
Never mind to survive 12 concentration camps and a death march, who will be sharing his heroic story with us. For those here for the first time, I'm Rabbi Shmuel Fuss, like make a big fuss, the director of Chabad Jewish Community Center of Riverside. I would like to welcome our elected officials who are joining us this evening. City of Riverside, Ward 3 Council Member Chuck Condor, please rise so we can all recognize you. A great friend of the Jewish community. If you need anything done, call him.
Sir.
He's quick and good. He takes care of things. Some things that I've been troubled with for a couple of years. Why don't you just call Chuck Condor? He knows how to take care of things. And sure enough, just like that, they disappear. Incredible. Just incredible.
Too generous.
And he always says he's just a servant of the people. He's here to serve. We have a staff member of State Senator Rosa Lise. Help me out. Mucho Bo. Thank you. That's why I got the name Fuss. It's easy. Said a lot for that one. And recently elected to our city council, Council Member Steve Robillard, who was here a little earlier, we're very excited. He's on our board, City Council. What am I talking about? City Council. And we're looking forward to working together to do good things for our city. We also want to recognize our Fontana City Council member, John Roberts. He is the longest running city council person ever in Fontana for sure. I don't know, has anyone been 30 years in city council? You also fire chief, 31. Thank you for that one, 31. Thank you for joining us this evening. Also a great guy and always there to help. We appreciate everything you've done. You know, the Jewish community here is spread out all over the Inland Empire. So things come to my desk that are interesting tasks. And we try to build relationships and friendships with those that like getting things done to make a difference for the community. So we really appreciate you always being there. And of course, Randall, your good friend, Mr. Fontano, just retired after many years. You were also city council, right? Well, you were Chamber of Commerce. President of Chamber of Commerce, right? Yes. We want to welcome, it's a water board member that's here, right? Laura? Where's Laura? Laura, please rise so we can recognize you as well. Laura Ruchin, thank you. And is the mayor of San Jacinto here? Alonzo?
Crystal's here.
Is he here? Here.
No, you're City Council.
City Council. City Council member, thank you. Alonzo, how do you pronounce the last name, please?
Well, it's Crystal Ruiz.
What?
It's Crystal Ruiz.
Oh, Crystal Ruiz, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Well, I don't usually end up that far in San Jacinto, but we need all the friends that we can get in this day and age. We're happy that you're here. Thank you. And our very own police chief, Larry Gonzalez. An incredible police chief. We're very fortunate to have him, a great friend of the Chabad Jewish Community Center and the community at large, always making sure that providing safety before the holidays. He calls to make sure that we have extra patrols, we have everything we need, making sure that the community knows that they have our backs. And they are here to protect our community, provide that safety net that any community needs, especially nowadays. So thank you very much, Chief Gonzalez. We really appreciate you being here. Now, not an elected official, but a dear friend who was the previous police chief for some 10 years in Riverside. I'd like to welcome former police chief Sergio Diaz, also a great friend of our community. I don't want this thing to walk off on me. Let's watch this thing. Here we go. I was wondering why that thing was moving. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to turn the phones on to silent. There are two people that I didn't mention yet. One that is a dear friend of our community, a part of our community, and never says never, no. And it takes about 3 minutes and she responds, no matter what the issue is in our community. We'd like to welcome our own supervisor of our district, Supervisor Karen Spiegel. Karen, you've been around a few years. You're well known. What happened to Virginia? Everything okay? You have her number, I think, right? Our Riverside City College District dear friend Virginia Blumenthal is supposed to be sitting right there. So tell her we give her 10 minutes, she has to be here. No, check in, try it. We just commemorated Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, a few days ago. And today in Israel is Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day in the state of Israel. And they're commemorating in Israel the death of 30,134 people who lost their lives in the wars, operations, and terror attacks in Israel. And that's a country of 75 years of only 9 million. Both commemorations, Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, and Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, are sadly connected. Both events commemorate the death of our people, the Jewish people, who are killed for the mere fact that they're Jewish. Nothing more than that. Just because you have the title Jew, your parents are Jewish, is why these 30,000 people were murdered. The images on college campuses across the United States are deeply disturbing. The following remarks, all those that know me for the 20 years that I'm here, you probably have never heard me speak like this, and I usually speak only on a positive note. That's my MO. Thank you. That's how I operate. I believe it's a very healthy way to live, to try to be optimistic and positive. But there are some times when there's no choice, when the voices are not loud enough, or not being heard, or not being expressed, that there is no choice but to speak up. So the following remarks that I'm going to say, I'm saying with lots of pain and sadness. Locally, the students and faculty just next door at UCR have been experiencing blatant Jew hatred, reminiscent of 1933 Germany. The Holocaust started with calls for boycott and divestment and demonizing of Jews, which eventually led to the murdering of 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children. At UCR, one can hear and see messages that demonize us under the cloak of anti-Zionism. Just 3 days after the October 7th attacks in Israel, the worst since the Holocaust, there were calls in the public square at UCR, "Long live the resistance. Intifada, Intifada, long live the Intifada." You can see the video online. If you don't know what Intifada means, I was in Israel during Intifadas, and what it means is it's a call for violence against Jews. The two Intifadas that took place in Israel where Palestinians carrying out deadly suicide bombings and blowing up city buses and restaurants full of innocent people, resulting in the deaths of thousands and maimed and wounded, and thousands being wounded and killed. Just last week, you may have seen this meme going around, a WhatsApp message with a split image. The right half shows a photo from 1938 of a line of young Nazis holding hands as they block Jewish students from entering the University of Vienna. This sadly happened right here at UCR, where Jewish students were prevented by 100 plus pro-Hamas demonstrators from entering a Jewish event on campus. And the worst part of it all is that we've been screaming for the last 20 years since I've arrived here, about the issues on campus, and it's been tolerated way too long. The harassment, the intimidation, the violations of Title VI, violence, vandalism, and around a week ago, they were awarded, the same people that have been harassing for years have been awarded an agreement when they should have been suspended or at least disciplined for their toxic behaviors. Our speaker here this evening is here to remind us what happened and what can happen, God forbid, again, when Jew hatred goes unchecked, when it is dismissed and not taken seriously, when it's not stopped in its tracks. Tragically, we, the Jewish people, are only the canary in the coal mine. It might start with the Jews, but it doesn't end with the Jews. We are so grateful to tonight's hero, 101-year-old Mr. Joseph Alexander, for coming to our community to share his first-hand story of the Holocaust and to share his secret of how to live 101? No, of how he never lost hope, never lost his faith that a better day is coming. My hope is that we can all be inspired and to be more optimistic despite the challenges we face, and that we can all work together. Anyone that's that has the ability to influence, has the ability to make a difference, to bring more understanding, dialogue, build bridges of understanding, to bring our community together for more positive outcome. That is my hope, that we can all take a message today from our speaker. It is rare that we have the opportunity in our lifetime to meet a hero the likes of Joseph Alexander. Interestingly, who can guess the first stop that Mr. Alexander made when he came to the West Coast? Which city?
Riverside.
Riverside, exactly. That is right. Mr. Alexander, coming from Europe, came to the West Coast, and the first city he moved to is Riverside. That's right. And he lived in Riverside for 7 years, and eventually moving up to Victorville. He moved up to Victorville to open a store, a tailor. Did I not say it right? You lived here in Back Springs. The store was right here.
Yeah.
First he was here for 7 months.
Over 7 months.
That's right. And then came back every night from Victorville to learn English here in Riverside. So that's
Night school.
7 years night school you were here. So he has old roots. Welcome home. Welcome back. Very happy to have you here. Mr. Alexander said that he feels he has an obligation to share his story and to serve as one of the last living witnesses to the Nazi atrocities. Open your hearts, be inspired by his courage and story of survival against all odds. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and give a warm welcome to Mr. Joseph Alexander. Just a second, we'll do one more thing. You may be seated. We will begin the program with the lighting of 6 candles in memory of the 6 million. I'd like to call upon our very own Rabbi Mendy and Fegi Lizak to lead the candle lighting together with their partner in mitzvahs. Eran, your heart's okay? You're not used to me speaking like that, huh? I don't. Yeah. Always in private, behind closed doors, never in public, right? Because we try to do things if possible in private. We never talk about people in public in a negative way. It's something we have to try to always do. But sometimes there's no choice. We'd like to call upon Rabbi Mendy and Fegi and Eran to come forward to lead the students in lighting the 6 candles in memory of the 6 million that were lost, whose lives were extinguished. So we will light a candle, and we will all, as we light those candles, have in mind what can we do to bring more light to our community, more light to our surroundings. Big shout out to Rabbi Mendy and Fegi, who moved here only 6 months ago. To direct our home away from home for students on campus. So we've been an incredible support to the students on campus going through this difficult time. And where are our students? Jasmine, you here, Jasmine? Come on up. And we have Maria, Natalie, and Johnny. These are the leaders, the proud Jewish leaders on campus, who walk around proudly. You should see these guys putting on tefillin at the bell tower. Israeli flags, proud Jews. That's what it's about. Never being silenced and never really willing to give up. I'd like to thank Eran, who's a great leader of the Jewish community, the director of UCR of Hillel, of Inland Empire, and the desert communities. We work together. The Jewish unity is paramount. Even if there's different outlooks, different perspectives, it's about coming together and learning what can we do to make a difference for our community. This is a great example of cooperation and partnership and Jewish unity on campus, which we don't take for granted. Thank you. Thank you all. We'll be having a Q&A after Mr. Alexander finishes his presentation. You can jot down your questions or text it to me, if you know my number.
1-800.
Sorry.
1-800
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
You have a fancy number you can put up over there. And we will try to address as many questions as possible following his talk. Okay, Mr. Alexander. Yehida Noyach. Does he have his own mic? Yeah. We're going to move this off the stage.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. My name is Joe Alexander. I'm a Holocaust survivor from Poland, and I survived 12 camps. I come from a small town in Poland. My father was in business, and we had a very good life until 1939, when the Germans came into Poland. They divided Poland in 2 halves. One half was annexed to the Third Reich, The second half was Poland under German occupation. We lived on the part where it was annexed to the Third Reich, and we lived in this town. Europe, every town has a town square. That's where most of the business are. We lived in the second house of the square, second on the corner of the square. The third house was an uncle of mine. After a few weeks, the Germans came to town and pestered my uncle, who went around the square and told the people they have 10 minutes to get their possession and get out in the middle of the square, and they took him away. For some reason, I'll never know why, they left the three houses where we were the second house. Then the rumor started that they're going to come back 3 days later and take the rest of us. So my father had three sisters living about 25 kilometers before Warsaw, which is the second half of Poland. So Dad said, I'm not going to wait for them to come and give us 10 minutes. So he got out, and he rented, we had a deep horse-drawn wagons, about 8-10 feet deep. And he got a wagon, and we picked up most of the stuff from the store, and he put a few pieces of bedding on top of a couple pieces of furniture. And so my parents and one sister and brother, they left, because from our part to the other part, you had to go to a border, so that we're moving. And they left. I remained with two older sisters, and we were loading up a second wagon. In the meantime, the Polish people from around town were coming to town to buy anything they can get. I sold a man a bicycle and a boat of shirt material. On the way home, he passed the police station, so he got stopped. He wanted to know where did he get that material. They thought maybe they took the Jewish people out, the business people. Maybe they started to loot already. So now he said, I bought it. Then show me a receipt. He said, I don't have a receipt. Then go bring the person who sold it to you. So he came back to me and said, you have to come with me to the police station. If not, they're going to come here. So I went with him, and he asked me, did you sell him that? I said, yes. Why didn't you give him a receipt? I see we in Poland, we didn't give a receipt. So I took the boat and material, smacked the guy and let him go and let me go. And I went back, my sisters waited for me, and we took off with the second wagon. We came to a little town named Blonia, about 25 kilometers before Warsaw. We came to Blonia, life was going on almost normally. People were still in business, but everybody has to go to work. Being there for about 2 weeks, I went to my first camp. That was in 1939. I went to a camp where you work during the week. On the weekend, you can go home. But the work we were doing, we were building a canal. You're in the water, staying in the water up to the knee without boots. And that was October, November. In Europe, that's about winter time already. So I was working there for about 6 weeks, and I was getting blood poisoning. I was sores on my legs, on my arms. So I went home one weekend and I said, I'm not going back. So Monday morning, police came to look for me. So my dad said, he's not here, he's supposed to be in the camp. So I stayed away from home for a while. I stayed with my friends, with cousins. And that was the time where they started to build a wall in Warsaw, where the Warsaw ghetto was going to be. So after they finished building the wall, they came out and ordered all the Jews who live within 50, 60 kilometers in the surrounding area of Warsaw had to move into the ghetto. So we moved into the ghetto. You can't even imagine how terrible, how bad it was. Because the area they picked up was a very small area, and they put in over 400,000 people. You walked out the house in the morning, there were dead people on the streets, on sidewalks everywhere. So I lived in the ghetto about 5 months, and we found out back home nothing had changed since we left. So my parents decided, for an older sister, a younger brother, and I, we should go back home. So to go back home, you have to get out of the ghetto, so we paid off the guards at the gate to get out. And we got out, and my sister and brother took one street, and I was taking another street. And we said we walk through town, we meet on the outskirts of town. I walked for about 3 blocks, and I had a Polish teenager comes over and said, "Give me some money or I'm gonna report you." So I figured I gave him some money, I got rid of it, and I kept walking. He got on the streetcar, rode the streetcar for a few blocks, and comes over again, "Give me some more money." So this time I gave him some more money, but I changed the street and I lost it. And I went to the end of town, and I met my sister and brother, and we went home. So we came home, I said nothing has changed since we left. So I was there for 3 days. And after being there for 3 days, they came out, all the Jewish men from 16 to 60. I reported to the schoolhouse. So I reported to the schoolhouse. I was free for 3 days. Put to the schoolhouse, and off I went to a camp. The first camp I went to, we were building a dam. You cut down hills. We had little electric cars, you fill them up, and they take them to another place and they dump it. The work we do was very hard work, because we had to use picks to loosen up the ground. And the food you were getting was a piece of bread like this in the morning, and a cup of coffee, and you went to work. You came back from work, you got a soup. It was either the peels from potatoes or spinach. Doing that kind of work, you couldn't survive. But I was in the city of Poznan, in the camp, and there were camps in the city and around the city. So people were dying every morning. They took dead people out, and the camp was getting very small, and same thing happened at the other camps. So I was moved from one camp to another, and then I moved to another camp, and I was laying cobblestones on the street. That lasted a short time. Then I moved to another camp, and we were building sewers, putting cement pipes in underground. All these lasted a few times, short time. Then I moved to another camp. I was a roofer, I was doing the roofs. After that, went to a camp building an airport. I was near railroad tracks. Then after being in 7 camps, a train arrived, and it wasn't a passenger train, the cattle car train, where they put 30, 40 people into one boxcar, and the destination we were going takes maybe 5, 6 hours at the most. But we were riding around for 3 days, no food, no water, no facilities. And we finally arrived in Auschwitz. Came to Auschwitz, they opened the door from the train. 30, 40% of the people were dead on the train already. Whoever could walk, you walked out, you were lined up in rows of 5, and you met Dr. Joseph Mengele. Dr. Mengele was called the Doctor of Death. He selected people for human experiments or for the gas chamber. So Dr. Mengele said there are 6 kilometers to walk to the camp. He's going to select some people to go to the left. The people on the left are going to be taken on trucks. So he went through and picked out sick people, old people, young kids, little guys, and picked me up, because I was a little kid, to the left. But If I would have come from home, I wouldn't know the difference. But I was already in 7 camps. In every camp I was, I go to work, I had to try to get in with the biggest, strongest man. And here I looked around and see sick people, old people, young kids. That's not the kind of people I like to be with. But my luck was, it was after midnight. It would have been daytime, I don't know if I could have done it. When Dr. Mengele moved further down, I ran back to the other side. If I didn't run back to the other side, I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight. Because the people on the left were taking on trucks, went straight to the gas chamber. So I went back and I walked to the camp. I got a shower. I came out of the shower and I got a tattoo. You see, this is a tattoo. 142584. From that moment on, you had no name anymore. That was your name. So I got a tattoo, and there's Auschwitz too called Birkenau, about 3 kilometers apart. I walked to Birkenau. I was in Birkenau for about 5 months. I saw Dr. Mengele 2 more times in Birkenau, but it was daytime and he was far away from where I was. I got through. But I saw in Birkenau, people were running to the electric fence to get electrocuted. People being beaten to death because they gave up. So I wasn't there, and then after that went to about April 1943. There was the Warsaw Ghetto, a big uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto. So they said, now we need some people, big transport, but they didn't want to take any from Poland. Only Hungary, Greece, Italy. But on the end, they were short about 300 people. They said, now we'll take some people from Poland. So I report, and I was going back to the Warsaw Ghetto for the second time. So I came back to the Warsaw Ghetto. There wasn't one house left. All the houses were burned up, just the remaining walls. And our job was to take down those walls brick by brick and clean them up and put them up in stacks about 8-10 feet high. And in the meantime, after doing that a while, typhus broke out. Typhus, you get high temperature, high fever. Anybody I knew who went to the report to the hospital, I never knew anybody came out of the hospital. It's the high fever. So when I got it, I didn't report to the hospital because I had we called a couple, like a foreman. He was a middleweight German man, but he was also a prisoner. So he didn't care if you worked or you didn't work. When I got it, I was sitting behind those stacks of bricks like this. About 3 days until I got over the temperature and went back to work. After I went back to work, I worked for a short time. Then the Polish underground one night attacked our camp trying to free us. So they were fighting all night but were unsuccessful. So the next morning they closed the camp and they took us out and we had to jog to get out of the city. They said they were afraid that the underground may attack us in the city. So we jogged to get out. They put us up on a big field where the farmers graze their cows and the ground is very moist. So whatever means you have, a knife, a spoon, anything, you could dig up some mud and you took your bottom of the shirt and you squeezed the mud to get a little water. So we got a little water and we were walking. We come to a city and there was a river. So they let us go to the river to get some water. 2 of our people went a little further into the river. They thought maybe they won't escape. So they got shot, they got killed right in the river. So we got some water and we were walking. So we come to the next town, it was the same river. So they said this time 100 people at a time can go to the river to get some water. So we went, we got some water, and we started to walk. And that day it was a very heavy rain coming down. You were walking, you could hardly walk. You were soaking wet. Until we arrived at the railroad station and stayed overnight, and the next morning the same train arrived. And this time I was on the train for about 3.5 days. And we went to Germany. Went to Germany to a camp named Dachau. Dachau was the first camp Hitler built in 1933 for political prisoners. Then he turned it into a guest chamber, with the guest chambers to a death camp. So I was in Dachau about 3 days doing nothing, because they were establishing 12 camps within 50, 60 kilometers the surrounding area of Dachau. One from 1 to 12, all by number. So after about 2 weeks, I went to camp number 1, and I was working for a farmer. We were digging potatoes. That lasted about 3 weeks. Then I moved to a camp, to a city of Landsberg am Lech, about 50 kilometers from Dachau. It was camp number 7. Camp number 7 was a small camp, only about 250 people. And that was the only camp I was where women were in the same camp, but they were blocked off one corner of the camp by wire fence while we went to work together. So camp number 7, we were a small group. We were in the camps over 4 years already. So we had the privilege of getting the better jobs. So friends of mine got the job working in the kitchen. 2 of them, one was a carpenter, one was a metalsmith, and I got a group of 10. We were 5 girls and 5 boys working in the kitchen for the German guards outside the camp. And there were 2 German men in charge of the kitchen. They were very good men. They were very good to me. Every day I was going back to the camp. I took some food back for my friends. We always had some soup left over. So we had some milk cans. I took a milk can and put it in. The next morning, people were going to work, had to pass our kitchen. So I stopped them and gave them some food. A couple of times, the officer in charge of the guards complained I'm holding up the people going to work. But my people told me, don't worry about it, let them talk, do what you do. And that lasted for quite a few weeks. Actually, till April 28th, all the 12 camps had to go back to Dachau. Went back to Dachau, stayed overnight. The next morning, what we're going to call a death march. They're supposed to take us in to the mountains in Germany. There's a ski resort named Garmisch, and they're supposed to kill us in the mountains there. So we walked, excuse me, we walked about 2 days. We knew we were not going to be walking too far, because we could hear the fighting. We knew the American troops are not far behind us. So I walked for 2 days and crossed a little bridge, and the little bridge was blown up. So our group was divided in 2 halves. I was on the half, I was in a village named Königsdorf, and there was a little forest in the village. So they took us into the forest, and they asked for volunteers to take the sick people into the village to the farmers and put them in the barn, and told the volunteers to come back. One of the volunteers was a friend of mine. His name was Joe Buddha. That was him here on the right side. His name was Joe Buddha. So he was one of my friends, and on the way back, they found a dead horse in the snow. So they cut off some pieces from the horse. My friend came back with a piece of horse meat and he said, do something. So I made a fire and I was barbecue. That was the best meal we had in a long time. And during the night, the guards disappeared. The next morning, the German police came and they took us into the village and they disappeared. That was in the morning, about between 8 and 9 o'clock. So we just walked around the village, see what's going to happen next. So we walked around to about between 12 and 1 o'clock. American tank moved in and we were liberated. And behind the tank were the American troops. So the American troops signed to block off the village, not to let anybody out. But we were a group, we were 9 of us, we owned the camps over 5 years. We didn't want to get blocked in. So we broke through and started to walk to see where the next town is. So we walked about 1 or 2 kilometers and there was a bakery. So we got into the bakery and everybody got a bread. You had a bread, you were okay. And we keep walking and come to a town named Bartels. And you see 3 American soldiers walking. They were Czechoslovakian descent, but they were trying to walk. They were holding on to each other. They were so drunk that they couldn't walk. But the clothes we were wearing, they asked, "Are you Polish?" I told them yes. So they said, "Come on." And they took us into an underground bunker. It was a warehouse. You couldn't see the end of it. So the first thing, we changed clothes. Everybody took a backpack and put some food in. And there was a big row of bicycles chained up. They broke the chain and everybody took a bicycle. And when the American troop came behind the tank, they brought all the people to this town. It used to be a German Air Force base, and they made a DP camp, a displaced person camp. But we didn't want to go to a camp yet, so we tried to get out where we were. We couldn't get out because it was after 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock was curfew. So we hopped over about 3 or 4 fences, and we came to a German inn, but was taken over by the American troops. In the back of the inn was an empty house, so we moved into the house. So we stayed in the house for about 10 days. Then they came out and ordered anybody who lives outside the camp has to move into the camp. So we moved into the camp and we were taken back to another camp in Munich. Munich is the capital of Bavaria. To Munich to a DP camp, but you are free. You can live at the camp or you can go any place you want. So I lived at the camp for 3 days, and a few friends of mine and I, we decided to go back to the city of Landsberg, where camp number 7 was. And at that time, there were a lot of DP camps in Germany. Landsberg was one of the biggest. So we went to Landsberg, went to the DP camp, to register. They gave me a room, I stayed overnight. And the next morning, I moved out to about 7 kilometers from town to a farm, and I lived in a farmhouse. The reason we went to register all the camps is in case any of your family survived. So we went to look through the list. You know, when I got out of the Warsaw Ghetto, I left my parents, 2 sisters, and 1 brother. I left in the Warsaw Ghetto. Until today, I still don't know what happened to them. So that's why I went to look through all the lists. So I gave me a room, stayed overnight, and I moved out 7 kilometers from town to a farm. I lived in a farmhouse. I lived in the farmhouse about 6 weeks, and I decided to go back to Poland, to my hometown, go to the house to see if anybody from my family survived. So come to town, went to the house, and there were some survivors living on the 2nd floor in my house, and Polish people on the 1st floor. But I said none of my immediate family came back. The only one who came back was a cousin of mine. He was 2 years younger than I. And he survived because I was separated from him. He was with 2 of his uncles, 2 of his father's brothers. And Dr. Mengele told me to go to the left when we came to Auschwitz. But he survived, but he's in a different town. And that time it was very bad for survivors who come back to Poland. They killed a lot of survivors. So in one town they killed 42 survivors, a town named Kielce. Because when they took the Jews out of the home, they moved into the home. Now some of the survivors came back. They didn't want to give up the home, so they were killing a lot of survivors. So the people, the Polish people lived on my house on the first floor, asked me if I'm gonna stay, they'll move out. I said, don't bother. I went and I picked up my cousin and we went back to Germany. And I lived in Germany for 4 years after I was liberated because you couldn't go any place. You didn't have a passport, so you have to wait until some country opens up. So after 4 years, Canada said they'll take some people. So I went to register, then you have to wait until they call you. Took a long time, I didn't hear from them. Then a friend of mine lived in the next village, then he came, he said, you can go now to Munich and they registered to go to America. So I went, I registered in Munich to go to America. It took about 2 weeks. I got a notice to go get checked out by the American doctor to check you out, and then the FBI to check you out. And then I saw all of this in a very short time. Then I got a notice to go to the port of Bremerhaven in Germany where the boat was to come to America. So I got on the boat and came to the United States. On May 30th, 1949, I came to New York. Came to New York, everybody had to have a sponsor. Either they had some relatives here or an organization. I didn't have any relatives here, so I was sponsored by a Jewish organization named Joint. And my contract was Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I went to Harrisburg. I got a job working for a man who had a cleaning store and tuxedo rental. And a father couldn't be better than this man was to me. So I got a job as a tailor. So I was there for 6 months. Then the cousin man who survived, he had an uncle here in Santa Monica. So he came later. Then he told the uncle that I'm in Pennsylvania, and we were the 2 survivors from both of our families. So the uncle called me I should come here to California. So in 1950, I arrived in the Riverside, California, where the uncle had a store in the Riverside here, a military store. So I arrived here in January of 1950, I arrived here in the Riverside. And then I used to go to Los Angeles every weekend. And then I decided, after being here for a while there, I was in 1950, the Korean War started. And so Victorville was an Air Force base during World War II. In 1946, they closed the base, and the Korean War started to reopen the base. So they went to Victorville. We opened my shop, my cousin, we opened the shop at the base, the tailor shop on Victorville. And I was 7 years in Victorville. And then I decided to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to open a store in Los Angeles. So I left my cousin here in Victorville, and I went to Los Angeles. I got a partner, and we opened a store on Melrose, next block from Paramount Studio. Opened a store selling military uniforms. It was called the Los Angeles Uniform Exchange. And we were there for 38 years. I was there, and we were selling uniforms to the movies, to the TV, to all the movie studios, all the uniforms would come from our store. So I was there for 38 years, and then I said, now it's time to retire. So in 1994, I retired, and now I'm still retired. But also, I was in 3 camps. I had to witness people being hung, people trying to escape, they got cut. Then on Sundays, we had to gather around watching being hung. I watched 3 hangings. So now, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
He has a beautiful yarmulke. It says FBI. It's given to you by the FBI, right?
Yes.
By the director of the FBI.
Well, I have a certificate for it too.
And on the back it has Pay Vet Yud. F. Mr. Alexander brought a PowerPoint. He'd like to show you about his family and other important photos.
You need the screen.
I got it.
Is this table in the way? Anyone on that side? Can you see the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Can we do it? We need to move it?
Yeah.
Move it? Okay. Nice.
Carefully.
Can you see?
Yeah. Actually, what you see in there now, that's a driver's license from Germany, which is a lifetime, no expiration date. This is a picture. That picture was taken in 1923 at the border of Poland. On the top right, that's my father. Next to him was his brother. His brother escaped Poland, went to England. He didn't want to go to the army in Poland, he went to England. So he couldn't come back to the Poland. So they met at the border. And that was my grandparents. So they met in 1923, they met at the border. This is on the left side, that's my father. And that was my only picture I have, one of my sisters, the older sister. And here is the tall guy, that's the friend of mine, brought the horseman. His name was Joe Buddha and me, and that was my cousin who survived. His name, Mark Alexander. We had the same last name. Here on this one here, it shows you here on the left, if you can see, I don't know if you can see it. It shows that I was in the camps from 1939 to May 2nd, 1945. That's from a certificate from Auschwitz. And there you see my tattoo on the bottom. That's the driver's license again. But you're missing one. In 2017, in 2015, I was invited by the German government to go back to Germany to celebrate 70 years the liberation of Dachau. And I met Angela Merkel. He was the chancellor from Germany. I met her in Dachau in 2015. I talked to her there. This is my picture from the Holocaust Museum, Los Angeles. Those are the original documents, my liberation papers, are on display there at the museum. Because there is my number, my 142584. That picture was in the Los Angeles Times. This is how we lived in the camps. See, there's shelves. In one section were for 3 people. On the second row at the end is Elie Wiesel. You know, Elie Wiesel. That's him on the second row, on the end. That's him.
Mr. Alexander is a celebrity. You look him up online, there are a lot of videos. He's literally traveled to hundreds of communities in order to share his story. And we are very fortunate that you came here tonight to share your story. Hopefully you'll come back for a good cholent on the Shabbos. I invited him for Shabbos, but he said, I'm sorry, I'm very active in my shul. I'm the gabbai of my shul. He leads an important part of the synagogue on a weekly Chabad. He's not available. So we'll have to figure out something else.
Because I'm the gabbai in my shul. I'm the gabbai in my shul.
That's what I'm trying to say. So you're not available to come here because you're a gabbai in your shul. All right, the first question that came in. With similar actions of history repeating 1933, what would you recommend for the audience, students, residents, and business leaders to do now? What would you recommend to do now, tonight, tomorrow, and next week?
Well, you know, 6 million Jews and 1.5 million kids were murdered. They were murdered not because they were criminals or did anything wrong, just because they were Jews. Today we have a lot of anti-Semitism going on in Holocaust deniers. I call the Holocaust deniers, they're crazy, because the evidence is still in existence today. You go to Ode Camp, Auschwitz, Tachal, Majdanek, Treblinka, the ovens and the gas chambers are still there. You see, you go there every day, there are buses, people coming from all over the world to witness. So that's why I called to this. I talked to hundreds of thousands high school students. And I tell them, don't listen to those deniers. That's why I call them, they're crazy. So that's what the only thing today, what we can do today, is the only way through education. We have to talk to the young people. I was told all the kids I speak at the high schools, 70% of them never heard about the Holocaust. So this is our job now, is to educate the young people, because these are the people, these are the kids, they are our future, is to educate them and to let them know what happened. That's why we're talking, there's a few survivors left, so we're talking to them and let them know what happened. And that's why this is what's going on in the campus now. They're crazy because those people who are demonstrating, they don't even know what they're demonstrating for. A lot of them get paid to go talk, demonstrate, but you ask them what they're demonstrating for, they don't even know. How come they demonstrate against Israel? Why did they demonstrate against Hamas? Hamas is the one who started it. But you don't hear anybody demonstrate against Hamas. They're the one who started the whole thing. So that's the crazy thing with the people today.
How old were you when you went to the first camp? How old were you?
I was 16. When I went to the first camp, I was 16.
We'd like to know if you can share a little more about your family. Did you marry, have children, grandchildren?
My family, yes, I was married. I was married for 38 years. And my wife passed away about 27 years ago. She had cancer. And I have a daughter and a son, and I have a grandson. So life goes on.
Where are your children? And where's your child and grandchild? Where are the family? Close by?
In the valley.
There's a few Jews in the valley? A few Jews in
I
the
don't
valley?
know. No, I live in the sun. But the kids live in the valley.
Can you say what was driving you to survive? What was your drive to survive? What gave you this amazing resilience?
Well, because actually I didn't know at the time, but I was determined. I determined to survive. I was not gonna give up because I was asked. I told the kids, the high school students, that I saw people and going to the electric fence to get electrocuted or beaten to death because they gave up. So they always asked me, did you ever think of giving up? I said, no, I never did. I never lost faith. I never stopped believing in God. And I said, I may have a bad day today, but I hope tomorrow will be a better day.
On the same vein, how did you keep your faith? How did you keep your faith in God? How did you keep your faith in God? How was it possible?
How did you keep your faith?
With seeing all the atrocities, seeing all the killing,
no,
the hatred.
Because I always believe in God. Because I say, if not for God, I wouldn't be here today. I think God helped me because somehow He wanted me to survive. If I wouldn't get out of the Warsaw Ghetto, I would have been where my parents, my sisters and brothers went. From what I understand, that they went to a camp named Treblinka. And I would have been with them. And when Dr. Mengele told me to go to the left, and I think God told me no, go back to the right, not to the left. Because if I wouldn't go back to the left, when I went to the left and I would stay, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So that's why I say God was with me all the way. And He wants me to survive so I can tell people what happened.
All the prayers. You have something you want to show?
There's a school here in Santa Monica called Otis Design Center. And I talk to them, to the students, for about 5 weeks, every Monday, a couple hours, and they put together a little book with my history here. You read it, what it said, the front.
You start reading now, we have a few hours.
No, just the front.
Do you believe in luck, Joe?
Turn it around the back. The back, no.
The back page.
No, I believe in God. The word hero, I don't know if it's sufficient enough for a man like you. A question came in, Joe, which, by the way, you want to tell me you got the name Joseph? You told me a different name when you walked in here. You gave me a Hebrew name, which was totally different. How did it become Yehuda Leib? Yehuda Noach, how did it become Joseph?
Well, my Jewish name was Yidu. It's spelled I-D-E-L. And I came in.
From the name Yehuda, Judah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, here they spelled it Idol.
Idol. Like American Idol.
So I didn't like it. When I became a citizen, I changed it legally. I took my brother's name, Joseph. That's what it is.
You said your brother only missed. He was supposed to go to Russia, and he almost ended up going.
One day. My brother was in when the war broke out, so he was mobilized. The army in Uganda was captured by the Germans as he went on patrol. And then when the war ended, the Germans took some of the prisoners to the Polish border. And just let them go. So we went to a city named Bialystok. And at that time, we moved to near Warsaw, like I thought. And when we came there, from there, they were going back and forth to Bialystok, from London to Bialystok, my cousins. And when I came there, they said, my brother is with them in Bialystok. So my father couldn't believe, how did he get to Bialystok? My father sent him a letter to come back to Bologna. And if he would stay one more day, because my cousins went to Russia the next day, and they survived in Russia. But he came back, so we had to go with us to the Warsaw Ghetto. And that's why I left him. Otherwise he would have survived in Russia. Because the cousins who went, three brothers survived.
This is not a question. This is a statement. This person here, I don't know who it is grateful for your perseverance and example. Too many people say that something is too much work, but not you. A lot of hearts sent your way. Thank you for sending that.
Never too much for me.
Many survivors didn't speak about their experiences for a long time after World War II. Mm-hmm. When did you first start speaking out about your experiences?
In 1997.
Wow.
I had a friend in Culver City. He belonged to a club, a mixed Jews and Gentiles, called the Exchange Club. And they used to meet every Tuesday for lunch. Mm-hmm. So one day he said to me, Joe, why don't you come with me to lunch? So I went with him for lunch, and then he said, "No, why don't you tell the people you study what you went through?" So that was the first time I was talking there. It was 1997. Then I had a neighbor she's an Israeli woman, and she was teaching Holocaust study at the synagogue on Rosyanica, and at the Temple Bet Am. So then she asked me to come and talk to her students. And then I got a call from a man he was on the board of the Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles. He was on the board and he heard that I'm talking. So he said to me, called me and said, why don't you come and talk at the museum? So that was about 5 years ago. And I'm still talking at the museum.
The comment in the crowd is keep talking. There's a question. Was it a difficult decision to return to the Dachau area in 2015 to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the liberation?
No, it wasn't. Matter of fact, I was back this last May to celebrate 78 years of liberation in Dachau. I was back again. No, it isn't difficult because I went back with my girlfriend Riva here. We went back in 2004, the first time I went back after 59 years. And we came to Auschwitz and to Dachau, and people were asking me, why did you come back? So you know what I said? I came back because I survived. Hitler didn't. I was asking both camps. People asked me the same thing.
Clearly, you saw lots of terrible things. Can you recall an example of kindness, in addition to, of course, you feeding fellow Jews in the camps food? Can you recall an example of kindness that stands out to you?
Well, there was, because of kindness, that's how I survived. See, we work with civilians. If you didn't get a little extra food, that's what kept you going. Because that's why people were dying, because the food you were getting in the camps, you couldn't survive. So there were some kind people. So I always got a little extra food. That's how I survived.
You mentioned about the blankets. When you slept at night, did you receive blankets?
Yes, we got a blanket, that's all.
Did you each one get their own blanket?
One blanket and a pillow. Your clothes was the pillow.
But you mentioned that you saw times when the blankets were shared by multiple people.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah, sometimes didn't. So it happened quite sometimes.
I recall reading that you told in the past that there was times that there was one blanket for multiple people and no one held it to themselves but shared it with others.
That's right.
Have you looked into genealogy, such as Ancestry.com, to see if there are any surviving family members? I know that you said that you never found any other family members, but have you looked into the new websites that are out there for finding family, lost family?
No, I never did, but I did do some DNA tests and couldn't find anybody.
Do you plan to create a book on your life and experiences? You still have another 100 years.
I don't know.
You have a good partner over here,
Yeah.
Riva.
I've been asked for a lot of people, but I don't have the time to do it. I'm too busy going talking to people.
You were in Stanford last week,
Yeah.
right? So you're always traveling.
Stanford, then we were in Chico, and we were in South Dakota, Pennsylvania.
And there's a student.
Arizona.
There's a student here in the audience who lit the candle that you told me about that really touched your heart after you spoke in a high school. You want to stand up? The student that wrote a letter to Mr. Alexander. Tell us this story.
She wrote the most beautiful letter anybody can write. She was such a beautiful letter. Matter of fact, after she wrote the letter, then I wanted to call her. She's a high school, Burbank guy. So, Burbank. And she wrote the letter. Matter of fact, in the letter she says, you can come to Chabad in Burbank, you'll be very welcome. She didn't know that I already know the Chabad Rabbi Burbank. But she said, and then I tried to call her to thank her for the letter. So the father answers the phone.
Who's here? Would you stand up, doctor?
Yeah.
Dr. Yigal, stand up.
So he asked me, why do you want to talk to my daughter? So when I told him why, so then he let me talk to her daughter. But that was the most beautiful letter. I have thousands of letters, but none like that.
Mr. Alexander, of all the prayers that you would recite, which one gave you the most strength? Prayers, you're davening, which?
Prayer, the most strength is the Shema.
The Shema. The Pledge of Allegiance, the Jewish Pledge of Allegiance. Yes. Recognition of one God, proclamation that there's one God.
One God, one only.
Can I ask we have a few more questions, is it okay?
Sure.
What time's your bedtime?
Oh, bedtime usually late.
Reba, we're good?
11 o'clock. after
11 o'clock. Sometimes
11,
midnight.
Oh,
Midnight.
okay. So we can go till midnight. All right. A long ride back. All right. I did offer to stay tonight in Riverside. He said he's got to get back to his bed. What is your favorite mitzvah or pasuk? A chapter or a verse or a favorite mitzvah that you have? A favorite tradition?
I don't know where to start. You got lots of favorites.
Tell us one or two. Besides for cholent on Shabbos, a good hot dish on Shabbat day after davening.
Yeah, I went to davening because you know, my favorite actually is when I'm the Chabad, is I call the people to the Torah.
Every Shabbos.
Every Shabbos.
Which shul?
That's the Hollywood Temple Bethel. That's my favorite.
You're standing up there every single Shabbos.
That's right.
Wow. Did you ever confront a Holocaust denier?
No, never did.
Do you know of any twins in the Holocaust?
No.
They did experiments on the twins.
No, wait a minute. Yes, I did know. I did know one twin. Yes, I did know only two of the twins. You know, actually, I met them after the war. When they were in the DP camp in Landsberg, there were two brothers. I knew.
And Mengele did experiments on
Yes.
this. Have you ever been to Israel?
Twice. 2 times.
Any thoughts of living there? When you retire?
No. Let me tell you. I had 2 incidents. I would have been, but looks like God didn't want me to go to Israel. I'll tell you why. First of all, I had a brother, the one I took the name, Joseph. He was in a kibbutz in Poland for 6 months to get a certificate to go to Israel. It was in 1938. After he finished the 6 months, then England had a minister called Balfour, called the Balfour Declaration, and he was handing out that so many Jews a year can go to Israel from Poland. When he finished the 6 months kibbutz, he cut the quota in half. So he didn't get to go. Instead, he went to mobilized to go to fight the Germans. So he didn't go. If he would have gone, I would have gone. When I was liberated, 2 days later, I was taken to a camp in Munich, to a DP camp, and I don't know, probably most of them maybe know, that Israel at the time had a brigade called the Haganah, who were fighting with the British in World War II. So they came through in the camp in Munich, and they asked if anybody wants to go with them. So they'll take us. We were 12 boys ready to go. So they said they're going to Belgium, and on the way back they'll pick us up. But they didn't come our way. They never came back this way. They went a different way. So that's why I say, CD, God didn't want me to go. If they would come back from Belgium, I would have been in Israel.
He wanted you in Hollywood.
That's why I say, well, God didn't want me to go to.
You needed to be in the Gabbai, in the shul, in the Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You lived in Germany after the war. Was it difficult to live amongst people who were Nazis during the war?
No, I had no problem. We had no problem because you don't know. After the war, there were no Nazis in Germany. Everybody you talk to, they were not Nazis. No, I had no problem. The 4 years in Germany, I had very good accent in Germany. 4 years.
Why did you want to come to the United States?
I didn't want to stay. I didn't plan to stay in Germany because I couldn't go any place. So I had to stay day and two. And I say, like I say, Canada. I would have gone to Canada if they would call me.
Too cold. Los Angeles is better.
So they didn't call. So I had to wait for somebody. Then I said to go to America, but the registered there. In a short time, in 2 weeks, I went to everything to come to America. So
One more question. And this is, how do you let go or manage your anger over all these years?
how? Because I said I don't carry a grudge. You carry a grudge, you make yourself sick, and it doesn't help anything. So why carry a grudge? Just life goes on. Just move on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'd like to mention we have a Vice Chancellor and Chief Diversity Officer, Mariam Lam, with us. We'd like to wave to everyone. Thank you for being here. And we have a proclamation by a state senator. You're going to have to help me with this name again.
Chabad.
Come on in. Okay.
Good evening. It's a true honor to be here, stand by you, and I have a certificate of recognition from our State Senator Rosalicia Ochoa Bode, and it reads this way: in honor, one moment, I need my glasses.
At 101, he doesn't have glasses.
I was gonna say that. In honor of your unwavering commitment to educating our community about the Holocaust and combating anti-Semitism, your resilience and determination to share your harrowing experiences as a Holocaust survivor serve as an invaluable beacon of hope and a stark reminder of the importance of remembrance. Your courage and fortitude inspire us all.
Amen.
Your tireless effort is to impart wisdom and foster understanding among the younger generations epitomize the spirit of resilience and compassion are commendable.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are we all invited to come to your shul?
Sure. Wish you did.
At this time, I'd like to thank all the sponsors for this evening, and most importantly, thank all of you for coming and being a part of the Jewish story of resilience. We've survived 3,700 years. Is that not a miracle? We are surrounded. So Israel is surrounded by enemies from right to left, and we survive. And we are not just survivors. We call you a thriver. He didn't kvetch once. Did you hear him kvetch? They say Jews complain a lot. Did you hear any complaining from this man? Nothing. Right? So you prove them wrong. We are resilient, and we will thrive. And we tell our enemies that they better be careful, because if they don't stop bothering us, we're going to make them into a new food. Right? The first one that bothered us, Pharaoh, we made a matzah out of him. And then the next ones bothered us, Hanukkah, we made a latke. And then they bothered us in the story of Persia, and we made hamantashen out of them. And soon, what are we going to make out of the Iranians? I don't know. Tell them to stop bothering us. It just doesn't work. You would think by now they would learn a lesson. Let us live in peace. We're here to make the world a better place, to bring light to the world. Find a way to get along. And that's what we want. We cannot end without singing a song of peace, right? Will you lead us in the song Oseh Shalom?
Yeah.
Oseh
Shalom Bimrama, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen.
You said that you were a rabbi, but you also have chazan. At this time, we want to thank you so much for coming and honoring us by your presence and sharing your story of faith and resilience and courage. We are very inspired, and we thank you very much.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you, everybody.